Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of House of League. I'm James Smales. I'm joined on his own this week by our esteemed Rugby League editor, Matthew Shaw.
That's lovely of you.
Boosting the ego a little bit because we've got that big space to fill where normally Josh McAllister / Dan Tomlinson / whoever work experience we can get in that week sits there. So I kind of need you to fill that full sofa.
I will perform. I will perform this week.
Hopefully you will do. Well,
where is Josh? I know Dan's not here because LFC lost, so that was him. There was no way Dan was going to come.
Dan's sulking, and Josh is on his holidays. He's gone away to the Eternal City, so he's got a nice week in Rome, which obviously.
However, planned it well so he can be back for Newcastle Magic Weekend.
He did,
and get his night out working weekend.
He's not going to miss that. He's not going to miss that, is he? But there's still lots for me and you to go over, or for me to ask you to go over, because I think you were saw most of the games this weekend. I'll tell you where I want to start. Disciplinary. We're recording this on a Monday afternoon. We've had the disciplinary news. There was so much talking points and debates around the 2 red cards, Hull Kingston Rovers against Leeds Rhinos, or it's actually the other way around, Leeds against Hull KR. Friday night, Suasu Sue, Jesse Sue, shown a red card. Ash Handley shown a red card. You were quite vocal on the night about them. You're going to be even more vocal now that we've seen the disciplinary report. Just talk everyone through, first off, before we get to disciplinary news, how you saw it on the night at Headingley.
Just saw it as utterly ridiculous. I don't know what else to say, Smilesy. I mean, I've got a simple question for anyone who wants to argue about whether there should have been red cards or not. What are Suaso Sue and Ash Handley meant to do? What else can they do? Other than not try and make the tackle. That's all they can do.
Yeah.
The Suaso Sue one's just ridiculous. He's falling, he's at his knees. If he tries to wrap his arms, as they claim he should do, he's going to get a knee in the head, he's going to be knocked out.
Yeah.
You just can't, there's no way around it.
He's going to injure himself.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just not possible. And Ash Handley, I just think with these, and we saw one within his senior at the start of the season, when he got a 2-match ban for the tackle on Cade Cuss. Ash Handley is 6 inches taller than Arthur Morg dropped just before him. It's another 2 or 3 inches.
Yeah.
9 inches there. The screenshots that we put in the article, he's dipped, his arms are out.
He's got his arms wide open, ready to give him a big hook.
Done everything that players are being taught to do now to try and avoid head contact. Unfortunately, we will not avoid head contact in this sport all the time. It's not possible. You can do everything you want to try and reduce it, and I think the sport has done that, absolutely, and done a great job of it, but it's never going to completely go away. To send them both off, I just thought was ludicrous, and lo and behold, Suaso Sue's not been charged, which tells you everything you need to know. Ash Handley's got a grade B. The irony of it all, I actually thought the Jack Sinfield tackle was the worst of the 3, and he got a yellow.
Yes.
And
he's also been charged.
Yeah, he's got a grade B as well. The frustration for me, Smales, is I think we've been complimentary of this throughout the season. I think the ruling and the transparency and the communication regarding head contact has been really good this year. The refs have been very good in communicating it to the players and in turn the fans, because obviously it comes over the mics on the TV. We all know where we stand, and I think most people now feel they can identify what's a red card, a yellow card, and penalty sufficient. That was until Friday. Now I've no idea. That's the problem.
How do you see the Ash Handley one now that he's got the charge and Sue hasn't, but for 2 sending off for effectively the same offence?
Listen, I think we can all identify there's head contact. No one's trying to say he didn't hit the head.
The tackles are different.
Sue
and Handley are different, but it's the same offence.
I just think, Smilesy, the way that they're going with, and the Innis Senior one's another example from earlier in the year that we spoke about on the show. I just think we are at a point where we are going to have outside backs that can't be 6 foot odd, because they're the ones that are jamming in and make. You think the split second tackles, it's normally the centre or the winger that's jamming in to make the tackle. You're going to have 5'7", 5'8" wingers. Because
the height differential is what's causing the problem.
Because normally the jamming in on a half back, generally speaking, they're more of the you shorter players.
They're normally a 5'10".
Yeah, and you get some tall half backs, of course you do, and you get some tall full backs, but a smaller player is generally one of those players that you're going to make the tackle on. We are going to get to a point where wingers are going to get banned that much if we carry on like this, where they're all going to have to be smaller so that they're just naturally lower to make these tackles.
But why is there not an issue with the fact that we've got that differential between the referee's verdict and the verdict of the penalty?
All we want is consistency, Smells it.
Let's go back a week before. Cade Cuss gets a red card.
Yeah.
No ban.
Well, listen, in fairness, and this is a niche of the new disciplinary system that I like, that they lower the punishment if you've been red carded in the game.
Yeah.
So, and you get a more generous relaxation if you red card in the first half as well. So, and I'm all for that. I think, if you've been red carded, you've missed the game essentially.
Yeah.
I think that's completely fair. But you're right. It comes back to consistency. I'm glad that Sue hasn't been charged because it accepts that what we all thought at the time was true, that it was the wrong call. The Handley one, it is consistent really in line with the Innes Senior one. But I don't know. I think we just got to look after his outside backs a little bit there.
I would imagine Hulkingston Rovers, they're going to be relieved that Sue's not going to, pick up anything else and end up missing a game at any point. But the fact that they won the game lessens the impact of that red card.
Absolutely.
But I'm still saying that Willie Peters is probably still, spitting feathers about the fact that he got sent off in the first place, and equally Leeds will be unhappy. What was the sense that you got on Friday night at Headingley of just being around that dressing room and backstage area, if you will?
Nobody could believe the red card. There were one person, who I won't name, who was adamant that they were red cards. And anyway, moving on, they clearly weren't. But everyone was just in disbelief. And in fairness, credit to both coaches, they came into the press room and both said neither were red cards. They didn't just speak about their own, they spoke about both, which I thought were good. The players were coming out where you are at Headingley, the players come past, you had a chat with a few of them and they were just like, what's going on? It's crazy. And it's frustrating because, the Sawasa Sue one in today's game is a yellow card. We know that these, even if it's accidental and there's not a lot the defender can do, we've all come to accept that head contact is a yellow card. It's mitigation.
Yeah.
I still think it's harsh, but it's not. That's where we're at. And it's been consistent all year. It's the fact that things have now suddenly changed in seemingly a game. Because people will argue the Cade Cuss one. I thought that was a red card. If you look at the detail of the tackle, I didn't think either of those two were reds.
Yeah, I could have gone either way on the Cade Cuss one. I genuinely could. I can make a good argument with myself if I want to argue with myself either way.
There is in many ways mitigation for Cade Cuss in that it's so quick.
Yeah.
But the time thing isn't mitigation within the laws, which is for me why it was a red. But I can understand why people think it was harsh.
Let's move on from this. There's a few things I want to discuss this week. I want to talk about the salary cap and quota meeting. There's some big transfer activity happening. That we're just breaking just before we came to record, which people will have eventually have seen by now. But I want to get stuck into Magic Weekend because it's Magic Weekend this week. We all love Magic Weekend. It's a great chance.
What's your favourite day of Magic Weekend?
For us, the first day.
Friday.
Before it starts.
Friday is the best day.
No, I do really like the Saturday of Magic Weekend.
Yep.
There is a little bit of fatigue when you get to game 5.
Yeah.
Not just because we're having to watch 5 games, boo-hoo, poor us, getting paid to watch, but it's a lot of work that's going on.
Yeah.
Covering 5 games. No, there is a bit of fatigue, but I like Magic Weekend because it brings everybody together. So we've got all the media 100%. There, we've got all the clubs there, all the players there, the agents are all there, and some come over from Australia. You got all the CEOs, you got all the fans there, and everything. Yeah. And it does feel like it has that real community feel. It's great in Newcastle. all the bars and everywhere right outside St James's Park, which makes it a big hit as opposed to some other venues where we've been previously. What I wanted to get your take on is, where do you see the future of Magic Weekend for this reason? It was originally introduced about growing the game. It wasn't about having a destination weekend. It was about growing the gospel of rugby league. And let's take it to Wales, because we had, the Crusaders and different things going on in Wales at the time. Then it was about spreading the gospel, and we're going to Liverpool, and we're going to, we went to the Etihad as it was then. We went, still is the Etihad, I think.
It is still the Etihad, yeah.
I don't know where I'm going with that. And then we settled on Newcastle, which I think everybody agrees is probably the best venue. But with Las Vegas, with talks of Catalan playing in Paris, with talks of potentially Wigan and Warrington going on the road again, is it going to be Dublin? Talks of, other venues taking the game to other places. Do we still need a Magic Weekend? Where does it sit in the calendar? And what is the necessity for it? Because ultimately, there's a finite amount of money out there for fans. We're asking a lot of them with Wembley, with grand finals, with Vegas, like I said, with Catalans away.
Yeah.
Can we find magic? Is there a room for it? Does it still work 20 years after it was first introduced? Or
it's a great question. I love Magic Weekend, and I would be there all the time, but I appreciate I'm getting paid to go. If I wasn't and I had to pick, and you've got Vegas and I can go back to Newcastle, which I love, but I could go to Vegas, I could go to Paris, I could go to Dublin if that's where Wigan and Warrington end up going, which it seems like they will. If I've only got a certain amount of money, am I going to pick to go back to Newcastle? No, maybe not. Or if I am going to go, I might just go for the day my team are playing.
I mean, it's great value. The tickets are great
Tremendous value.
£30
Unbelievable
or whatever
value.
it is for 6 games of rugby league.
Yeah.
But it's everything that comes with it. The hotels, as we know, if I'm trying to book them, are extortionate.
You are right.
That weekend.
What I would say is, I think the issue actually is probably more for the Challenge Cup final.
Yeah.
I think that's the one, because it's a standalone fixture. In Magic Weekend, the great thing, if you're a Super League fan, you will see your team play.
Yes.
Challenge Cup, you don't get that, and it's long travel.
And we are seeing a lot less fans. There used to be everybody would go, community clubs would go.
The landscape's changed.
Everybody would go to Cup final.
But back then, it depends how far you go back, there was no Super League grand final.
Yeah.
And then Magic came, then Catalans came, and then now you've got Vegas. You've got more games being look like they're going to be taken on the road. Hulk, I went to Amsterdam for a pre-season game. Yeah. We're going to Warrington have this party. There's more options now. And as you rightly point out, not everyone has money to go to them all. So it's just natural that everything's probably going to not get as much as it could, and as it used to do.
It's been a success, but a limited success. I know we've had some great weekends. We've had some brilliant games down the years. Some of the most controversial moments and standout. I'm thinking of last-minute tries that shouldn't have been tries and everything else.
That Catalans come back against Saints is the one that always comes to my mind.
We've seen some incredible games and some incredible moments as well. I remember, was it Jackson Hastings making his debut and just having an absolute...
Jared Samet did for Crusaders against Bradford. Yeah, it was unbelievable.
And had an absolute wow of a
game. There's been so many.
But this is my issue with it. Despite all them successes, in terms of bums on seats, we still tend to be around 30,000 a day.
Yeah.
The high 20s, maybe 35,000. And we talk about that being a big success.
Yeah.
We're still only half filling that stadium.
It's a really good point. It's a really good point. And I'm being stubborn going, but I love it at Newcastle, I love it Magic. But you're right. You are right. I think now that more and more is being offered in terms of Vegas, in terms of whatever else, I do think there's a place for Magic, but you probably would have to move it more for it to be a bit fresh. Because for as much as I think everyone loves it at Newcastle. But with everything else going on, you've got new experiences to go to where you can go back and do what you've already done before. You're probably going to go for the other one. You're right. It's really difficult because if the outcry when there was talk of IMG wanting to get rid of Magic was enormous.
Yeah.
Which shows that people love it, but
but even if you're not going, and let's remember that there's a lot of Rugby League fans and Super League fans out there that don't go to games and just watch at home for whatever reason. And they're just as, they're just as important because that Sky revenue is
100%.
massive. For them, it's a brilliant weekend. You got to sit on the sofa this weekend.
Yeah.
Hopefully the sun's out. You can even try and get the telly in your garden or get it on the radio or whatever. But you got 6 games over a weekend with everything else that's going on. That's fantastic.
Yep.
So it does have that. I just wonder with everything else that's going on where its future lies. But I'd be interested to see the attendance this year because they've brought it back earlier. Right?
Yes.
So it's before the Cup semi-finals. So people are not even committed to the Cup final yet.
Yeah.
Or a lot of them aren't.
And the Cup games, by the way, because of where they're located geographically, it's not that much of a hardship as it.
No, it's not.
As it could have been. So.
And I was just going to say, it's actually, because it's so early in the season still, it's before most teams have been out to France, so you haven't committed to that or you haven't paid for that yet or whatever. So it feels like they're giving it the best opportunity.
Attendances are up as well.
Yeah.
So you'd hope that's reflected in Magic, wouldn't you? If attendances are up across clubs, you would like to think that they'd be up at Magic. We'll see. I think you make some great points on it. I think we'll know more after we see the attendance, won't we?
Yes. The last one from me on this then. Do you keep it? Do you tie it down for another 3-5 years or whatever and commit to it like the NRL have committed to a 5-year deal in Vegas? Do you do that in Newcastle? Or would you like to see it go to Paris, to Perpignan? There's no reason why.
Yeah, I'm caught in
we couldn't use Toulouse or somewhere.
Yeah.
Or just somewhere completely different.
I'd love it to go to France, but I'm not sure commercially it would work.
Is that just because you want a holiday in France for a weekend?
Yes. No, and that trip to Disneyland would be good if you go. But I'd love it to go there. But I think the minute you have to get on flights, it becomes more costly for fans. It becomes more costly logistically to get it done. You've got to get an enormous crowd in France. And I'm just not sure the sport is in a position to take that risk at the minute, financially.
And then we also need to factor in, there's talk about no wanting the French clubs involved in Super League moving forward anyway. So
hopefully that doesn't. Hopefully that doesn't happen. But look, you've made some great points on it. I think we can probably pick this up next week when we see the attendance and see how it stands compared to everything else. Because projection should be, with what we've seen in Super League this year, they should be up. Yeah. If it's not, that maybe adds into what you're saying.
Let's talk transfer news. There's been a little bit of activity in the last week. Started with Dion Cross, who I think at the time of recording last week, we were reporting that he'd handed in his notice at Salford as he was trying to get a deal out to St Helens. As it turned out, that deal did happen. St Helens got it over the line without having to pay a transfer fee. Then, just before we came in to record, we broke the news that Chris Atkin was leaving Salford also and was training at Castleford Tigers, and he's now effectively Castleford Tigers player. We've had Morgan Gannon leaving, or going to leave at the end of the season. Leeds Rhinos, who were pushing the boat out, was the message that they were making clear to anyone that would listen, even putting it in the press release.
They didn't hide the disappointment,
did they? Really didn't hide the disappointment. He's leaving to go to the New Zealand Warriors. We'll come to that as well. So, having moaned, I think, Saturday last week, you might even have said it, I think it was on air, not off air, that it was all a bit slow and there was not a lot happening. All of a sudden, we're starting to see a few things happening. Unfortunately for Salford, involving 2 more of their players. Talk to us about the Dion Cross really quickly, because that was last week now, but just paint a picture of why they've not paid money and then give us a bit of detail on Chris Atkin.
We haven't heard the last of this Dion Cross story, I don't think. So essentially, the RFL decided, after taking legal advice following some breach allegations that had been made, that some of them held up and they had to deregister Dion Cross as a Salford player. It came as a massive shock to Salford on Friday morning. I can tell you that when they got the email through, and I'm like, what? They had no clue.
No.
Really caught them out. And that's how the deals got done. Look, I don't know the ins and outs of what the breach allegations were, which ones were passed.
Yeah.
Something we're trying to get to the bottom of right now so that we can do a piece on it. But I know that Salford are livid about it. So,
but just how much time have Salford got to actually follow up on this? With everything else that's going on at Salford and all the issues, it feels like they're in an unfortunate position where they really don't like this and they'd really like to come back.
Yeah.
But they've got so many fires to put. It's like whack-a-mole.
They
can't do everything. They can't put every fire out.
Some of the ownership group, and this is going back nearly a month now. Remember, it was on my birthday. That group met owners of other clubs, took some questions, and it was basically said if it gets to the end of May and nothing's sorted with the stadium, that's when things can really take a dive, worse than it is now.
Yeah.
So I'd say they got a month. The fact that, they didn't really let Dion Cross go, did they? They basically forced into it, and they were really standing firm on that. Atkin.
Yeah, what's the difference with the Atkin?
Yeah, I'm not. This is a bit that perplexes me a little bit because they've been firm on it. I just wonder because Cass have wanted Atkin for a while, and the same thing. They were like they didn't want to accept the offer that was proposed. Now they have accepted it. It's not a big fee. It's a small fee, to be honest. I think George Hill's staying at Salford for an extra month on loan. Okay. So that's part of the agreement as well.
So there's a bit of an agreement there.
I just wonder, Smilesy, if the breaches have spooked them a little bit in that.
What I was going to say. Yeah.
Have they gone, actually now, where the floodgates are going to open if players want to leave?
A little fee's better than him just walking.
And this is precisely why we need to know what the breaches were. Because if the breach that they've been pulled up on is the late pay, anyone can go and do that now. Yep. If it's something more specific to Dion Cross,
yes, different.
So it's important that we get that detail. It's something we're working on. It is
important we get that detail, and hopefully we can bring everyone that on alloutrugby.co.uk this week. Because, like you say, that could really open the floodgates.
It could do.
Real trouble for Salford. Talk to me a little bit about the Gannon to the Warriors deal. Leeds, as we said, didn't hide the frustration. The press release, you could feel the frustration coming from everywhere in it. It was like one of those, if it had been written with a pen, that were properly digging the pen into the paper on some of these
I think that was probably a statement. You know, when you're really angry with someone, you send a text and then you delete it and be a bit more diplomatic.
There's a frustration because they really looked after him last year when he was injured. He's a young lad who they've helped bring through, and I think they thought, look, we're not saying don't go to the NRL, but we'd have liked to have got a little bit more return from the investment we've put into you and the way we've protected
They were offering him huge money as well to stay.
Yeah.
So,
but at the same point, it's a lifestyle choice. It's not just financial.
I'll never blame a player for going to the NRL.
No.
I don't want them to go. You know, we don't want to lose these players from the competition, but it's for some people. It's for some, it's a childhood dream. A lot of people, and I probably never really recognised this, but a lot of people say it to me now, in this country, they watch NRL but not Super League.
Yeah.
And, kids who play the game are likely to watch a lot of NRL, so you can understand it. There's obviously the connection to Richard Agar, who gave Morgan Gannon his debut at Leeds.
Yeah.
Jim Gannon is Morgan Gannon's daddy, obviously from out there, not New Zealand, but, I can understand it. It's a shame for Leeds. It's a shame. You're always going to be annoyed when you lose one of your homegrown players, especially one that good. He's only 21. He's a great player. So, but it doesn't hurt Leeds in the short term, I don't think. They've signed Callum Watkins. James Bentley's re-signing. They've already announced James McDonald. So you got your 3 back rowers for next year. It's not a disaster. It's beyond 2026 where it becomes a problem. Because that's when Gannon, you'd have thought, would be becoming one of the best back rowers in the comp.
Yeah, and some of those that you're talking about there.
Watkins probably retires at the end of next year. McDonald's only signed a 1-year extension.
Yeah.
So he's off contract. So that's when you start getting a back row issue. For now, not the end of the world.
Let's talk about, you're talking about contracts there. Big meeting this week, salary cap, quota, clubs coming together. We're going to have to keep an eye on this to find out where people are leaning, just to put people in the loop. Obviously, they're going to be debating the salary cap level, where we're at with it. Is it raised? Does it stay the same? We joked about it, but some people would quite like it lowered, which, you know, the same with the quota. There was a proposal last year about a player had been played, was it 5 or 6 years over here in Super League, effectively coming off the quota to allow more overseas players to come in. Where do you sense the winds blowing on this one with the owners at the minute?
I think the quota will change in some way.
In the overall figure, or are we going to see more add-ons? Because to me, there's a little confusion there when we talk about the salary cap, because there's so many dispensations that I don't think everybody's aware of and how it applies. That it's shrouded in a little bit of a mystery. I'd like to see it a little bit more straightforward. Personally.
Possibly, but it also rewards clubs for stuff like junior development and stuff, which I think's right, to be honest. And there's marquees. The marquee, I think everyone understands, don't they? But you're right, it's a bit complicated. I think the quota will change in some way. Will they just simply raise the number that you're allowed? Probably not. I think the exemption of 5-6 years, something like that, will come in. There are some clubs, quite a few clubs actually, that would like the number just to go up. I'm not sure the game will do that. I think I think in the grand scheme of things, the only way to really solve the issue comes back to what we said a few weeks ago. Get more of your own coming through. We know that ultimately there aren't enough players coming through at enough clubs. Some do great, Wigan, Leeds, Saints. Hull are starting to produce a few, but there's not enough across the comp, and the Championship and League One as well. Salary cap, I don't see changing. Not significantly. There'll be tweaks on dispensation. I don't think there'll be huge changes. I think there's just too many people in too many different mindsets. Some want it down, some want it up, some think it's right. Yeah. Some don't think the timing's right with broadcast deal negotiations. I think salary cap changes would likely be for 2027. Not
that
now.
Would make sense. I mean, you want to see what that broadcast deal looks like before you tie yourself down to a salary cap. But
it'll be interesting tomorrow, though, just moving on slightly, because it's a regulatory meeting, so there's stuff like disciplinary, head contacts, other proposals. I did hear someone told me something this morning that, and I can't remember who it was, but someone was proposing that games should only be played every other week. Your team should only play once a fortnight. And that was part of it. The idea was you would then need less players, which saves cost. I don't see in any way that going through, but that was apparently that's something that might get proposed tomorrow.
Is monkey tennis on the proposal?
It was interesting. Who knows? But I think if you're asking me to tip something, I'd tip quota changing.
I'd like to see a little bit of unity. This is rugby league, so maybe it's a bit pie in the sky, but I'd like just to see most, if not all, the Super League clubs kind of pushing in the same direction. Yeah. There's always going to be a little bit of discrepancies on, well, we like this, and maybe that could just be tweaked a little bit. That's just the nature of things. But I'd just like to see the clubs, for the betterment of the sport, trying to move it in the right direction rather than all the infighting.
Your problem, though, is that everyone's got a different idea of what
direction
is.
And I'm being, a bit too optimistic with that. But it just feels like that's probably what we need.
And it's even quota, Some will say, well, the player pool's not big enough here. It needs to go up. Some will argue, well, we need to produce more of his own players, so it should come down. There are some who think it should come down, maybe not at the ownership level.
But the franchise model should help with creating your own pool of players. But we're only more effectively year one into that. Yeah. That takes 5, 7... beyond years.
Correct.
So you probably need an answer for now. Who knows? Well, I think that about rounds up for this week's episode. As we said earlier, Magic Weekend in Newcastle. We'll be back later in the week with our predictions to see how the games go in Newcastle this week. But for now, I've been Juice Wells. Thanks for being with us, and I'll see you next week.
And above all else, enjoy rugby league. Take care.